Hello, welcome to SuperCoach Edge for the round 21 review and round 22 preview. Well, we're naive really to think that we travel the remainder of the season without another major injury. It's been a fair while between drinks, you could say, as it were. And well, drinks are now well and truly on tap, with Little Nicky Daicos ruled out for 6 weeks with a fracture in his knee. Those with the trade can count their blessings, whilst those without them, like us, Liam, will be having to rely on the bench warmers for cover. Well, I guess if you have any of note, that is, or really any cover at all. Liam, not looking good. Not looking good for some of us.
No, it's not looking good for, some of us. It's definitely thrown the cat, I guess you could say, amongst the Magpies with the news. But we'll use a portion of this episode to run through the most notable replacements for Nicky Daicos. For those of you who do have trades, those lucky few that are out there, got to trade up your sleeve, stick around.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll get to hear some options for you.
Absolutely. And on top of that, we'll also be joined by the legend that is DR.
Yes.
From SuperCoach with DR.
Yes.
Who is one of the nicest blokes in the SuperCoach community. And just always a joy to have on to chat all things SuperCoach. And, of course, we'll tap into how he's going to cover Daicos himself, because I do know firsthand he has one trade up his sleeve. And we'll chat about his key learnings from SuperCoach in 2023 and gauge his ideas for implementing changes to the game for 2024 and beyond.
Yes, and looking forward to that chat. It's always a good time chatting with DR.
Indeed.
And as you said, absolutely one of the nicest blokes in the SuperCoach community. But if you're not following us on socials and you want to keep up to date with what we've been doing, the latest news, what we're up to, post-match SuperCoach scores, and of course, the odd meme or two when they arise, you can do so via X or Twitter at @SuperCoach_Edge, Damon at DemoJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, search SuperCoach Edge, and you'll find us there.
Very nice. And Twitter, XXX, that's coming. Did you also hear, sorry, before we get into the next bit, but there is a bit of a bout between Elon and Zuckerberg, but there's been a little bit of a each-way bet, you could say, from Elon's side of the camp, because he's come out tweeting, Xing, whatever you want to call it, saying that apparently he has to have a scan on his upper back and some other ailment that he has that may require surgery. So he's already laying the groundwork to say that he's pulling out. I think he's scared. I think you've seen the photos of Zuckerberg, in the gym or, MMA fighting, whatever he's doing. He actually looks pretty ripped for a nerdy bloke that he is. Full credit to him.
Zuckerberg's just a robot, isn't he?
That's true.
All he want to fight a robot?
And all Zuckerberg needs to do, because he is a lizard, he's like one of the lizard people, he just needs to literally the lizard tongue, he needs to lick him, and the moisture from his tongue will short circuit Elon. And there's the winner. Dun, 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 dun. It'd be the quickest fight in history. But anyway, let's jump straight into this episode by kicking things off with our usual recap in the good, the bad.
Us, for those of you new to our show, in the good, the bad, and the ugly, we roll through some of the more notable and the more forgettable performances across the round of SuperCoach, and we touch on how our own teams performed in our head-to-head rivalry as we wrestle for the ultimate supremacy. And I'd say this week was the ultimate supremacy.
Oof. Couldn't guess why. Couldn't guess why you're saying that. We'll find out. So let's kick things off with the good, and you can't look much further than the big old cis dog. So the cis dog definitely had the dog in him, you could say, capitalizing on the juicy matchup with the Pies, who, as we mentioned last episode, concede bulk points to defenders. And after a down week, he came out with serious heat to score 166 in a BOG performance. Must also make mention in this good category, Liam, a little bit aside from SuperCoach, but SuperCoach related, a ripping bloke by the name of Paul, who recognized me on my old hood of Reservoir, and came up and said hello on the main street there. And we actually ended up having a bit of a lengthy chat about SuperCoach and all things life. And must say thanks for saying g'day to Paul, and was an absolute pleasure to meet you, mate. And all the best, of course, for the remainder of the season. But it was quite interesting because I remember I was trying to get a coffee because I was visiting my grandfather in the nursing home down there in Reservoir, and the cafe was shut. And I saw this guy like walking towards me, and I could see him like looking out the corner of his eye and doing a bit of a double take. And I'm like, this guy recognizes me, but I have no idea who he is. Didn't even like cross my mind that maybe he recognized me from the podcast, because who does? I mean, a bulk of our listenership and viewership is on the listenership side of things. So they probably don't know what we look like. And then he doubled back and was like, Are you the guy from SuperCoach Edge? So he didn't quite know my name. It could have been Liam. See, I could have actually passed myself off as you and be like, yeah, that's me. I'm Liam.
If he recognizes you, I think he knows which one is which.
No, he did actually mention that in a previous episode I'd mentioned about like living in Reservoir or something. So he kind of knew that there's a fair chance that
walking the streets of Reservoir looking for you.
It was just a pure coincidence that I was walking the streets with an autograph book in hand and like a camera as well. And finally someone recognized me. No. But I must say that it's always a good affirmation that we actually do have listeners and viewers out there. So if you actually do spot us on the streets, which is quite random, taking it to the streets like Sam Newman in the footy show.
Yeah, we should do that.
Or at the footy, which, we actually probably should do it one day, maybe pre-game. If we go to a game together, maybe next year we'll do a pre-game. I've got all the gear and some idea with regards to video editing and videography. Just a little. But if you do spot us anywhere, feel free to come up and really just say g'day, because to quote Austin Powers, we don't bite hard. Just nibble. But yeah, even Paul was saying, he's like, it's so strange that so like people haven't come up and said hi to you. I'm like, I've noticed, and you've noticed as well. And we were chatting when I mentioned this story to you off air, and the people I've noticed at the footy, they kind of do give me the same like side eye. And I'm like, it's just awkward because I don't know who they are, and I'd be happy to like walk up to them and be like, hey, how's it going? But some people are shy, and they're just worried about we might go off the handle because we are loose units, as people describe us, as DR always describes us, which you'll hear from later in the episode. But yeah, interesting nonetheless.
Exactly. I mean, we could be like those celebrities that just hate being recognized in public and don't want people approaching them.
Yeah, like we like at having a coffee and like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like blast them. Can't just see I'm trying to live my life. SuperCoach is a different part.
Why do you think I wear a hat everywhere? I just wear a hat and some sunglasses and a hoodie so that no one recognizes me. I need to live my normal life.
Exactly. Although I must say, having said that, if you were to approach me when I was out, like if I was out with my wife, who sees SuperCoach as like the mistress in our relationship, you might get that response. No, I'm just joking. No, she's on board with SuperCoach until I win the 50K, if it ever happens, or weekly.
Yeah. Yes. Well, let's move on from the heights of from Paul from Reservoir to the lows of our bad in Josh Dunkley. And Dunks had what we would call a mysterious game by his standards, scoring just 77. He did spend 10 minutes on the bench in the first quarter. I think he only got about one touch and struggled to get into the game until a late flurry of points when the game was on the line. An uncharacteristic game by the ever-reliable Lion. And speaking with DR, it sounds as though it was a bit of a weird role for him, playing a bit more accountably, bit more of an accountable role.
Yeah,
where he was focusing on Sarong.
Yeah, and it was Sarong. It's kind of like Jack Steele as well, who played a bit of a negating role on Cripps at one stage. Again, Ross the Boss Lion, gee whiz, he stuffed over owners of Steele. And justification just quickly to you for trading out Steele to Mills. This is the 1 week where it actually paid off, and it helps you win a final, I guess. I don't know if it was the difference or it would have been, but it helped you.
It did help me. It did help me.
Well, let's round this off with the ugly, and of course it is, unfortunately, because it is due to an injury, so through no fault of his own to an extent, Nicky Daicos. So little Nicky was having a terrible night as it was already being tagged to great effect by Finn McGuinness until his game was actually put on ice, much like his knee, with scans revealing a fracture, which has ruled him out for up to 6 weeks. So he wasn't having a good one to begin with anyway, so it's probably Just went from bad to worse, really, or from bad to ugly in this case for Nicky D.
Yeah.
But let's delve into
how'd you go,
how
Damon?
both of our teams fared in the first week of SuperCoach finals. So I ended up scoring a 2,426. So I guess on the
Nice.
whole, my round wasn't too bad, having seen me win 3 out of my 4 main cash leagues with a prelim berth in 2 of those wins, a semi-final in the other win because I finished outside the top 4, and then the other game where I had the double chance, ended up losing that game, unfortunately, to an opponent in my cash league of all things who didn't have Sheasel, didn't have Dunkley, and both of those players absolutely pummeled me. So just the bad luck we speak of when it comes to head-to-head matchups, isn't it? However, the strangest part of the week was the fact that my overall rank of 711th, didn't change from last week. So no change.
Wow.
No change. Super strange. And like I opened up SuperCoach and I was like, is it having that error again where it's just not updating? I've refreshed it. No. Closed the browser, opened it back up again. No, everything else had updated. So I guess that probably means that my score was the exact par score for those positioned around my rank or thereabouts. Maybe that's how it's calculated. I can't recall, but SuperCoach data will probably be able to shed some light on that on Twitter. But just absolutely crazy. Never seen that before ever. But there's some people coming out on Twitter saying that it's happened to them.
I suppose at higher levels, you'd probably see it. Like if you're first, you probably often see you not change rank. But yeah, not probably something that's common when as you get into like the couple of hundreds, the 700s, the thousands.
Bit closer to the top type thing. But quite funny as well. Shout out to SuperCoach Pleb at SuperCoach Pleb. Does a lot of good meme work on Twitter and good supporter of us. He actually replied and said, yeah, mate, happened to me. Thought I'd be number 1, but hasn't updated and I'm still 22,000. Very good gag there. So did enjoy that. But just in terms of my team overall and the ramifications with Daicos now being out, I'm now praying that Walsh can return off the bench for me this week in time for my 2 semi-final games, as I can switch Doc back into defense to cover for Daicos. And of course, Walsh comes back in Daicos's old spot. But if not, it just means I will have to swing my multiple avenues of DPP to try and lock in the best scorer off the bench between, get this, I've got Chin Cotter, MJ, Seamus Mitchell or Marek. So I'm not flushed with quality off the bench like I hoped I would have. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why.
Could be worse.
Yeah, I've got Walsh. So
could have Chesser.
Oh. Who? Oh, that bloke I traded like in round 3.
That bloke that I'm still holding this whole time.
At least he's a warm body, as it were. Who knows?
I'm the one owner. Chesser.
Yeah, he's not even a 0% ownership. He's point
doesn't
1.
even own himself in SuperCoach.
Would you blame him, really? But yeah, in terms of notable scores, Merritt did the job as captain after English faltered as the VC, while Sicily impressed massively with his 166 as the big pod. So he is delivering, especially with those coaches that don't own him. But as always, you can check out my Team Talk segment on YouTube for a closer look at my team as we head into round 22. And a bit of extra content if you so crave it. But Liam, how did you go on the weekend?
Oh, wow. I went 2 points. Well, I scored 2,428, which was 2 points higher than Damon. So I finally got a win. And as we said last week, I'm pretty sure next goal wins. So
yeah, we did. And the week prior to that, and the one to that as well, I think as well.
No. Yeah. I was pretty happy with my score, 2,428. I think it came down to Doherty in the end. I was sweating on Doherty in that last round, the second last game. But did see me climb up the ranks about 805 spots to sit 846th overall. So in terms of my team,
8,846?
Right, 8,046. Sorry, I went up 805 spots.
Oh, okay, yes. I thought you were coming from me. Then I was
absolutely butcher that.
I was awfully scared. I almost had to do it. I did do a double take. I'm like, oh my god, you're on my tail.
Yeah, I actually just went up 8,000 spots this week to sit 805th.
Yeah.
No, not quite that well. Anyway, in terms of my team, I put the VC on taking a bit of a punt
Great call.
against the Tigers. I know the Tigers often give away points to opposition mid, so it worked out well, especially with Libba scoring 159, which was the second best score on my field, with Sicily being the top score, which was nice. Did manage to win my main cash league matchup, which well, all feels for naught now that I've got no trades and I've got Daicos injury. So I'm going to run in the gauntlet from here as I rely on Weddle to come onto my field.
Or Chesser.
Or Chesser. I mean, really, I'm just going to loophole
due.
Chesser on. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Chesser's due for a big one. It's coming.
Remember that week that I think it was I played Scott Arthur
Yes.
with his team Black on White, and he had to rely on Chesser, and Chesser like scored like 80 or something the one
Ridiculous. Week. Yeah. Again, always the way. Head-to-head matchups.
Anyway, maybe I'll do it. Anyway, but just having a look at my field in general, the scores on my field, I had the two extremes. So my top 5 scores were all above 134, but my lowest 5 scores were all below 77. So really weird kind of mix. And then there was a lot of like 99s, like mid 90s to 90, 99, not too much around the 100. So interesting. Thankfully, though, a lot of those lower scores did come from highly owned players like Dunks and Daicos, and which is a little bit more useful.
Yep.
But Damon, let's have a look at the head-to-head.
Yes, you're excited about this one, so I'll let you run through it.
Yes, I am sitting on 4 wins.
I was waiting for you to say
17.
So I'm sitting on top. Off the back of the next.
So I won the first SuperCoach final, as far as I'm concerned.
That's true. Actually, let's do that from now on. Let's wipe the slate clean. Give a little bit of extra incentive for us to keep going, because you know
it's the only thing I'm playing for now.
Exactly, it is literally the ultimate supremacy.
So 4 wins to your 17 losses, and differential.
4 wins to my 17 losses.
Sorry, my 17 losses to your my 4 wins. Oh my god, I'm losing it.
You're trying to get any which way. You're trying to get one over me. I see through this.
And I am minus 1,271 in the differential. So one good week could be back.
Yeah. The comeback is on, though. It must be said. I've been saying it all season. It's finally happened. Finally, we got there. The comeback is on. It's the first, as you said, it's the finals. You got the first week. We've got 3 more to go, Liam.
Anyway.
If this is kind of like the Ashes, because like you won the first one, like Aussies won the first one, and they get the English coming back, and then the last one could be a washout. Don't know how that would work, but I've got to come back. I'm on the back foot now. I won the home and away season.
You won the home and away season. It's just the fact that it's a league of 2 that we have to play finals against each other.
We both qualify automatically. Classic.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on, because it is time to chat about the Daicos dilemma in the rebranded segment, Talking Dollars and Cents.
This is how we do it. It's Friday night. I feel all right. But now I'm the big G. The girls see I've got the money. $100 bills, y'all. If you were from where I'm from.
Yes, very nice. Well, for those tuning in for the first time, this is the time where we would normally discuss all the best potential trades and trade targets from week to week. However, as we mentioned last week, with the majority of coaches now out of trades, let's turn to the big talking point of trade, all things trades this week, and the trading candidates for Nicky Daicos, as that is really how many will be spending their last trade for those crazy cats and kittens that have one left over. Last week, we went through the percentages of the, I guess, those people in the top 1K that had trades left, and it did look awfully dire. Tried to have a look at SuperCoach data, but unfortunately, I haven't updated the percentages as yet. But last week, 37% of coaches had 0, 38% had 1, 19% had 2, and 6% of absolute sickos out there had between 3 and 4. So yeah, it's going to be obviously less than that. Could be almost doubled across the board there, because I reckon a lot of people would have used up some of their trades for luxury upgrades, but hopefully some of you out there had one left over.
Yes, but now when it comes to who you could target to replace Nicky Daicos, with there are those that may have the DPP swings to allow you to bring in a mid or a forward or even potentially a ruckman. But for those that don't, there are still a couple of nice options in defense that present as potential replacements. And let's kick off with the defenders, Damon. I'm going to let you run through. No, I'm going to run through this guy because I want you to talk about the next guy.
Yep. Okay.
Because I feel like you can give him a bit more.
Okay.
So the first guy should come as no surprise. We've been speaking about him for weeks, and it is James Sicily, Sickdog, defender eligible, 660.8k, averaging 116.1 with a break even of 114. And he is still somehow a juicy pod with super large ceiling scores that we can only dream about. Well, not us, Damon. We own him, so
it's reality
about them. Exactly, it's our day to day.
Yeah, it's our life. This is our life. We're living it. You don't know me. You haven't walked in my shoes. You haven't owned my SuperCoach team.
Exactly. Exactly. No one wants to own my SuperCoach team. But anyway, he tops the list of targets for very good reason, with a 3-round average of 146.3 and a 5-round average of 126.6. And his recent scores look something like this: 58, 134, 134, 172, 136, 171, 102, and 166 across his past 8 games. Last episode, we did outline the opponents he faced on the run home, with Collingwood being his first up, and that they had a positive correlation as well when they concede points to opposition defenders. And he scored 166. So
did they ever?
They do like to concede some points there. But this week he faces the Dogs, who concede the most points to opposition defenders. So we are all licking our lips, as it is the perfect timing for those that do have Sicily and those that can afford to get him in. The only question is whether Bevo will adjust his forward setup to account for nullifying Sicily, much like Ross Lyon did, despite his Saints conceding bulk points to opposition defenders. Will he Bevo it up?
Don't stuff us up.
The next 2 games after that, though, are Melbourne, where he has a matchup that's probably break-even, and Fremantle, who also would be a break-even matchup-wise in terms of opposition defenders' points conceded. So we have highlighted over the last few weeks how much of a pod he is, and given his insane scoring, he is the pod to target. I even think with those break-even matches, if he scores, I don't know, like 120, I feel like that's
his average,
that's his average, really, like 115, 120. Like, it's not outside the realms of possibility between Freo and Melbourne.
Yeah, it's a high floor. It's a super high. It's like the highest floor we'll ever see.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I think he's worth bringing in. If he can, it's just hard to know what Bevo's going to do.
That's the main one, yeah.
But yeah, he is probably the ace up the sleeve for those that can afford him, and he could help you win crucial matches in your head-to-head leagues, especially this week.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I love it. And like Melbourne and Freo, Melbourne don't really have a forward line at all. Like they've lost Petty. Petty would have been an awesome one because he was shifted as a defender down or up forward. He would have been able to play a defensive attacking mindset on him. But now with him being out, might actually open things up for him in the defense up against Melbourne and Freo. Again, I don't know if there's anyone who could play that role. It's going to be interesting. So it might be a positive correlation. Who knows? But yeah, do like the look of him, obviously, if you don't have him. But next up, we do have a bit of a pod, a genuine pod, in the form of Nick Newman. And he's priced at 543.3k, averaging a 97.6, and he's break even, which at this stage isn't much of use, but 33 nonetheless. And Newman has largely slipped under the radar in recent weeks with a 3-round average of 123.4 and a 5-round average of 118.6. And his uptick in scoring has coincided with the turnaround in Carlton's form and winning run across the past 7 weeks, which read with scores 121, 59, 114, 106, 92, 137, and a 144 on the weekend. And being in only 1% of teams to date means he is one of the bigger pods available. And if you're shopping for a pod to help sort of differentiate your team from your league finals opponent, he is definitely an option. But the best part about Newman is he is actually 20K or so cheaper than Daicos. So unlike Sicily, the trade here isn't reliant upon having spare dollary dues in the bank. So I do really like him. He's actually among the most traded in player as well, looking at the trade trends. So people are all across it already. And yeah, if you don't have any DPP swings that you can move to kind of, I guess target other players across your team, and, trade out Daicos for a forward or a ruck or midfielder, he is someone that you can just sort of downgrade to, and away you go, plug and play.
I don't mind it. I like the pod factor, but the extreme pod factor that he is concerns me.
Yeah, it's high risk, high reward still.
Yeah, like I know that obviously getting up to Sicily is probably like, I don't even know what Daicos is priced at off the top of my head, but I'm assuming it's about 80, 90K to get up to Sicily.
Yes,
Daicos.
Yeah.
So that's hard, but I think some of the other guys on the list potentially offer options that could be better.
The one thing, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I'll pull up some stats here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just concerned with Newman. I get that there's an uptick in and it's a sustained uptick in scoring, 7 weeks. He's really only had one poor scorer there, which was the 59. The rest, like at 92, is not a bad floor for a defender. And a good ceiling.
There is potentially part of the reason why, especially in the past couple of weeks, his scoring has elevated up towards that 130 mark. And it is to do with the fact that Doherty is largely playing in the midfield. And that is obviously a flow-on effect from Walsh being out. So for me, I think it might be a bit, I don't know, still is it like a gamble off the back of that? Like, will his production go down? Once Walsh returns, obviously Doc's going to go back into the defense a bit more. Will he cramp his style? If you discount those previous 2 games with Newman, 137 and 144, he scored in his past few games, 92, 106, 114, 59, a down game against the Hawks, and a 121 against the Suns. So still thereabouts, but it does show that potentially, small snapshot there with those 2 games in recent times where he scored well, but his ceiling will be lowered, I think, with the return of Walsh and also with the return of Doherty moving back into defense. As an avid cult man, I think I can see that happening. And yeah, I don't know. I like it still. I think there's judging by the fact that a lot of people are trading him in. Yes, maybe mitigates the risk a little bit, but still his ownership's not going to go up that much to really help you.
No.
Yeah, if he does have a bit of a downer. But yeah, nonetheless, he's probably still one to think about. But just speaking about Doherty, he's obviously another target.
Yeah, and he's probably the one that if I had to choose between these 2 guys, I'd probably lean towards Doherty.
Yep.
So he is obviously defender eligible, 580.8K. He's also mid eligible, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yep. So you got the DPP status there as well, averaging 103.1 with a break even of 136. And we all know what Doherty can bring to the table with his reliable historical scoring. His CBAs have risen from 0% to 58%, 64%, and 41%, all coinciding with Walsh's injury. And during that time, his scoring hasn't totally suffered, thankfully, but of some benefit, of course, with scores of 156, 93, and 107. While his ceiling isn't as high as previous seasons, with only 3 scores above 115 all season, Doc's appeal is really in his high floor since returning from injury, with 9 of his 14 games tons, with his 5 scores below that 100 mark being 77, 87, 93, 94, and 96.
Yep. And they're obviously not in order, but
no, yes, of course. They're just just shows you the low.
Yeah, low to high.
The low to high. Yep, the range. That's the word. Doherty's the one that I would pick if I was picking between him and Newman. I know that Doherty's obviously higher ownership, but I think there's more upside to Doherty. We know he can score when he's playing in defense. We know he can also score well when he's playing in the midfield. Once, as you said, Walsh comes back, if that's this week, Newman's scoring could take a hit with Doherty returning to that defensive role, which then limits Newman. But doesn't limit Doherty.
Yep. Yeah, spot on.
That's my thoughts personally. I think if you were going for a pure defender as an option, I think Sicily, if you can get him, I mean, Sicily is going to be hard to obtain. So maybe it is Doherty. I'd probably go Sicily if you can get him, then Doherty, and then probably Newman for me.
Yep, 100% agree there. Absolutely. There's only going to cost you, what, 11,800, I think, roughly, with the difference between upgrading Daicos to Doherty. And as you said, like, that's that defensive midfield DPP. So if you do have a bit of a swing, like a Chesser or Constable, if they're stuck in your midfield, it allows that swing, also activates that DPP swing. But let's move on to the midfield. And yes, if you do have a DPP swing, you can activate. Like me, for example, I've got Doherty in the midfield. If I had to trade up my sleeve, I could trade Daicos to Sarong by switching Doherty back into defense. So Sarong is the first, I guess, the one that we've kind of identified here as a potential candidate in the midfield. He is priced at 563.4K, averaging 111.4 with a break-even of 90. So Sarong, I think, is worth targeting for a number of reasons. Firstly, his price. He's at a juicy level to allow for a virtual sideways trade of Daicos with no loss. Secondly, his high floor is something you can count on from week to week and give you scoring security in your crucial league finals. He has only had 4 sub-100 scores for the season with 70, 84, 90, and 93, with every other score eclipsing, obviously, a ton. In recent weeks, he has scored 101, 110, 126 for a 3-round average of 112.3. But the cherry on top is this week, who he faces, of course, West Coast, who give away the second most points to opposition midfielders. However, that is probably tempered by the fact that the other 2 games are the fact that he faces Port, who give away the second least points to opposition midfielders, and then Hawthorn. And we all know the job Finn McGuinness had on Daicos on the weekend. So a 50-50 call there as to whether he cops the tag or if Brayshaw does. But I think amongst all that, he is still a great option. Ownership is still up there, I think, from memory as well. Just have a quick squeeze of that, 20% thereabouts. But yeah, he's been scoring quite well. And that high floor is really, really good. I think he kind of lacks a bit of a high ceiling. He's very similar to Brayshaw of last year. But yeah, he gives you that solid floor, especially, which is crucial in your league finals.
Mm-hmm. Agreed entirely. I don't mind it. I think surely they tag Brayshaw before Sarong.
Yeah, he's more susceptible.
Like,
I think
more susceptible, but also like I feel like Brayshaw's got more of the name, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's the obvious choice, so I feel like that's where you would more likely to go. That being said, I don't know. I'm not Sam Mitchell.
Yep, exactly. We'll find out.
Another option at around that price point, bit cheaper, in fact. DP3, Darcy Parish.
Yes. Yep.
I'm not going to go into his price. 568.6K, actually. I will go into his price. Averaging 108.4. Pretty stable 3 and 5 round average. 109.7 is 3 round average. 5 round average of 109.4. So bang on.
Yep.
Faces North, GWS, and Collingwood. He absolutely loves playing Collingwood.
Yes.
North as well, likely a positive matchup there as well. GWS 50-50, but again,
probably better fixture.
Better fixture than
DP3.
Yep, I would say probably hasn't really had the ceiling games this year. His highest score being a 131 against Port in round 16. That being said, I don't know. I have a feeling about that Collingwood game.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but he does absolutely love playing the Pies. So could be the game that he scores very, very well in. Yeah, that's just another option for you, just to throw a cat amongst the pigeons. But yeah, I don't mind either of those options, to be perfectly honest. I think if you can swing Daicos, if you can get a mid in, I'd almost do that over probably maybe Doherty.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Definitely Sicily. Sorry, no, you know what? I'm actually going to change my mind. Get Sicily in. If you can get Sicily in, that trumps everything.
Yeah, I think like it's going to be very rare. I think a lot of people out there with one trade that have 100K up their sleeve to afford the trade of a straight swap of Daicos to Sicily. But discounting, I guess, Sicily, of those, like midfielders and defenders, I'd be almost keen to go with DP3 just because of his ceiling. And as you said, like we haven't seen it yet, but he presents that upside because of off the back of that. Like there's potential for him to do it. First and foremost, maybe this weekend against North, and then as you say, against the Pies, who he plays well against. Maybe he pops up there. It could be crucial. I mean, that's the SuperCoach Grand Final of all things as well, the last round of the season. So could come in handy.
Yeah. I also think, and I think as well, like, I mean, this is just sort of playing the averages. You almost want a good score. If you're playing in a cash league, most cash leagues, if you make the prelim, you're going to make some sort of prize. You almost want to focus on, don't worry about next week, worry about this week. Try and bank the cash in a sense. Get yourself a win this week. At least then you kind of get yourself something if you do make the prelim, and then go from there. I think, though, I'm almost leaning towards Doherty. I'd almost go Doherty and DP3, on the same level for me. Doherty's DPP status is what I like. So you bring him in, and then if you do get another injury, God forbid. Is
that on the proviso that you do have that existing, or like if it's going to activate? Because it's not going to.
You'd have to have it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You'd have to be able to use that trade. That DPP status and activate the swing.
Nice.
But yeah, let's move on to our next option. It is a ruckman of all things.
Yes.
How would you even do this? It is Lukey Jackson. Obviously, he is ruck forward, so this could also fit into the forward line. But it's not as interesting if you put him as a forward. 506.2k, averaging 95.2 with a break even of 32, and he is playing as the number one ruck for the Dockers and is suiting Jackson. And that suits Jackson in recent weeks with scores of 187 and 173 in his last 3 weeks since Darcy has been out with injury. In the run home as well, he faces West Coast and will ruck against potentially Bailey Williams, but maybe not. Maybe not even Bailey Williams, because he could be banned for a week. But the Eagles are challenging, and if I'm honest, if he gets that 1 week upheld, like, it is absolutely ludicrous.
Won't surprise if it happens though.
No, but I honestly can't see how it happens. I can't see how they justify that being 1 week. Like, it's anyway. So he could be up against Jack Williams.
No, his brother.
His brother.
Or some dude off the street.
Or someone who's found off the street. You reckon Jack Williams is just Bailey Williams with a mustache?
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Comes out with like the fake mustache and like attached to the fake glasses.
I am Guy Incognito.
Who is Bailey? Who is Bailey Williams? I am Jack Williams.
And then does Bailey Williams walk past Jack Williams on the side of the street and be like, hang on.
Hang on. This is a guy that looks exactly like me. And there's a dog with a fluffy tail that walks past.
That dog has a puffy tail. Here, Puff.
Anyway, that was a reenactment of the Simpsons scenes for you. Anyway, so he faces West Coast, which we all know is basically facing no one. He then faces Port and will ruck against Vicentini, most likely, who conceded 105 points to Reece Stanley, of all people, on the weekend. Jeez. And then finishes the season against Hawthorn, so should be up against Ned Reeves. I don't think Meek will be back. They don't concede the most points to opposition rucks, the Hawks. So there's sort of not a positive correlation there. But if Jackson can break even with a score in the hundreds, that should be enough. His DPP will also help if you do have, a Cameron forward, or if you do throw him forward and you don't have a Cameron, you could swing him with the Nick Madden if there is any, God forbid, ruck carnage in the next couple of weeks. And should be nice cover for the rest of the season if you do need him. So I do like Luke Jackson personally, especially with what we saw him do on the weekend against Darcy Fort.
Yep. And we saw a bit of a small snapshot as well. I mean, we're getting bigger snapshots here without the great Hodor. But last year when he filled in for Maxi Gorn as well, was admirable in those efforts as well. But yeah, it looks as though he's elevating his ceiling quite nicely. And with these matchups, as you mentioned, he is going to have an absolute day out, you would think, against the Vicentini. Just reminds, what's his nickname, do you reckon? Martini? Do you reckon it's like shaken, not stirred?
Yeah.
Call him shaken. Just, hey, shaken on the footy field. Shake and bake. Anyway, let's move on to the last prospect in the forward line this time, of course, if you want to target someone in this spot, if you are just chock full of to the brim with guns in the midfield and in defence, and you're able to swing someone back into defence in Daicos' place.
She's or someone.
Yep. You can target this man, and it is Zach Butters. That's him. 564.5K, averaging a 109.6. And Butters, he has drifted down in price to now sit at a more, I guess, palatable price of 564.5, as I mentioned, after being an eye-watering 658K back in round 12. So he's virtually a sideways trade in at this stage for Daicos. The depreciation in his price was off the back of scores of 118, 99, 109, 81, and 84, which I guess aren't super alarming, but during that time he was battling a bit of a groin niggle, which seems to have passed given his uptick in form and scoring with 101, 134, and 137 in his past 3 games. And along the same lines there, most pleasingly, the CBAs have been 75% and 86% in his last 2 games, which are actually his second most and most for the season, which again speaks to his fitness levels. His DPP is also super handy to provide extra cover across the mid and forward lines. But of course, a trade from Daicos to Butters is only available if you have other DPP players to shift around into Daicos' spot, or if you have Daicos in your mids, of course. Because, of course, I forgot to mention there that, yes, Zach Butters, mid-forward, he is a classic.
Classic. Yeah, I like Zach Butters too, now that he's at a much more reasonable price. Their run home, I mean, they need to get a win, surely.
Oh, well, they got their top 4, I think, locked up, but it's just a home final potentially, I think.
Yeah.
That's on the line.
Yeah. I also just mean in terms of form, like.
Oh, yeah.
You want to get a win in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
They face GWS on the weekend, then Fremantle, and then Richmond. So not an easy run, but not a overly tough run. Like it's a weird run where you can see them losing all those games.
Yeah.
But you can also see them winning all those games. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh, well, I think he's definitely an option. But if we were to rank all of those, let's just go back through.
Yeah, okay.
Sicily is obviously number 1.
Yeah.
Aside from that, DP3 put in the mix as well.
Yeah. I'd say it's Sicily first. DP3 / Doherty is second for me.
Yep, I agree with that.
I'm not going to split them because I actually think that there's benefit either way.
Yep.
Then I'm going to go Butters.
Yep. Jackson
probably next.
Just
Jackson's
based on
lower because it's probably a harder one to get in.
Yeah. I suppose if he's a forward, he's probably up
of course.
With Butters, but
I'm just imagining that Butters is easier to get in. I think he could be in your midfield, but yeah.
I think with Jackson, the main thing with him is the fact that if you don't have a decam and you don't have any ruck cover, he provides a bit of security there. I mean, it's only 3 weeks to go, but good scoring, good form, good matchups he has coming up. And then obviously that cover if you don't have it. So I think if you're in the camp where you don't have cover, maybe for me, I would push him up there.
Yeah, goes up higher. It's really team dependent, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say, isn't it? Yeah. And if you have DPP available, first and foremost.
Yeah. But yeah, I think definitely if you can get Sicily in, he's number 1. DP3 / Doherty's next. Butters, as we said, then probably Luke Jackson. Luke Jackson could get pushed up if you don't have ruck cover. Then I'm probably going Sarong, and then probably Newman.
Yep, exactly. Yep, I like it. I am in agreement. Well, Liam, with that, let's delve into the next segment. And I think it's potentially me. Am I this person?
You are this
week?
person.
I am this person. So let me turn around and get my trusty captain's hat. Because, of course, Liam, I'm the captain now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Forgot the toot.
Yeah, come on. You're a happy pirate sometimes.
Yes, I am. Arr.
Anyway, sorry. With that, this is I'm the captain now.
Did you hear about the new film that I starred in? The pirate film? It was rated R.
Oh.
All right, let's go.
Never
speak of that again.
Let's move straight on. In I'm the captain now, we chat about the VC and C options you've got for the upcoming round of SuperCoach. As always, we've scrounged through the data and found the best options for you to consider.
Indeed we have. Well, let's kick it off with
7 million of them.
Yeah, there is so many. Geez, what have you done here, Liam? You just taken a bloody screen grab of the entire playing list in the AFL. But it's good. It means that there's quite a few players. Of course,
there's actually some really good options this week.
Yes, actually. There is good reason because there's quite a few actually looking at these averages. But first up, we have Tom Stewart, and in his last 4, he has scored 18. Oh, of course, he's got injured. 104, 119, a 95 for an average of 84. But as we know, with Sicily, he scored quite well. Points conceded by the Pies to opposition defenders. This fits Stewart to a T. So
it'd be a nice Friday night VC.
Yeah. Yep. I don't mind it.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the Saturday game. Saturday 1:45. It is the Roos up against my mob in the Dons. I forgot what teams they were. Luke Davies-Uniacke. He is he's an option for you. He's not got a great average against the Dons, albeit not really having played them very often. And his last 4 scores against the Dons are 68, 55, 99, and 60 for an average of 70.5. But I think he can probably throw that one out and look at his more recent average. In just, when I say his recent average, I mean his recent form, not necessarily against the Dons. And he has a 3-round average of 122 and a 5-round average of 125.8 with scores of 106 on the weekend, 127, 133, 129, and 134 in his last 5 games.
Yep, he is definitely an option, but so too, Liam, is your El Capitano himself. He should be wearing this hat.
Yes.
Zachary Merritt. And he absolutely loves playing the Roos. In his last 4, he scored 137, 140, 117, and a 114 for an average of 127. And must note as well that North, they give away the most points to inside mids. So matchup, recent form against them. It's all coming up Millhouse for Merritt, I think.
Would there be a tag?
Yeah, that's the only thing. Who do they use? They used Eddie Ford at one stage. Yeah. Liam Shields isn't playing, I don't think. Greenwood, don't think he's playing.
Okay.
Who knows?
You just say no next time.
Do they need to tag though?
No, because they need to lose.
Exactly.
So
there's your answer.
Yeah, it's a good point actually.
Yeah.
Clarko, what's Clarko gonna do?
The competitive beast, yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next game. And it is Sydney up against Gold Coast. And we've got my boy, Errol Goulden. He has scores of 115, 73, 38, and 95 in his last 4 against the Swannies for an average of 80.25. But he's playing at the SCG. He loves playing at the SCG.
Yep.
And his last game at the SCG, he scored 117, 124 before that, 164 before that. And I'm going to deliberately leave out the next one because it was a 62, a 93, but then before that, 156.
Yes.
119, 102. So
Yeah, he's in incredible form. So
good form.
yeah.
And up against the Suns.
Yeah, Swans need to win, obviously, as well, in order to stay in touch with the potentially a top 8 berth. It's going to be tough for them, but still, nonetheless, they need to win. Then also, we have Tookie Miller in that same game, making his return from the squirrel grip. He got a grip himself, I think, off field, and he just probably reflected on himself and said, "I've ballsed up." To really, put it bluntly, he looked at himself in the mirror and said, "Yeah, I've ballsed up." But anyway, he's ended up scoring his last 4, 113, 112. I love your straight face. 113, 112.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Did he do anything wrong?
No, not that I know of. To Zorko? No, deserves it. 146 and 148 for an average of 129.75. So awesome form line against the Swans. Does need to bounce back slightly, and I think he'll probably come out breathing fire. Yes, and want to bounce back.
Grab this game by the balls?
Yes. Exactly. Very good. Very good. The way that he should or shouldn't in the AFL's eyes.
Anyway, and what's the next game? It is Brisbane up against Adelaide, up at the Gabba.
Yes.
Lockie Neal, one average of 133 against the Crows. With scores of 122, 115, 147, and 148.
Yes. Worry about the potential tag coming from Keys potentially. And
stop tagging him.
Yeah. Stop tagging him. Everyone's
tag
got him.
Someone else.
Yeah. Not someone else. Not this next guy.
No, tag
Josh Dunkley.
Tag someone else.
Tag Ashcroft in the crowd. So Dunkley, he scored in his last 4 against the Crows, 146, 142, a 65 and an 88 for an average of 110.25. Obviously had a downer on the weekend. Uncharacteristic, as you mentioned earlier in the episode. So I reckon he'll come back breathing fire. He'll want to bounce back. He is an awesome player. So will be definitely a pod option if you're looking at one.
And again, a game they need to win to sort of shore up their credentials as a top 2 team potentially.
Yep. Home final. I
think that'll suit Brisbane, and they'll hopefully come out breathing fire up at the Gabba. On the other side of the field, though, we got Rory Laird, 115, 142, 129, and 86 against the Lions for an average of 118. Probably none that I wouldn't look at necessarily. Been on a bit of not the best scores recently. Yeah. Likewise as well. I think is his teammate like Jordan Dawson. He's only averaged a 92.5 against them. 120, 107, 79, and a 64. He's someone that I don't trust as much either. His form line's been tapering. He's got an 89 on the weekend. Just not good enough. And I think it's too much of a risk anyway. I think even if it is a VC, I think there's better ones out there, especially those we've already spoken about. I'm probably a bit harsh on Laird. He has scored a 151 3 rounds ago.
When he injured his shoulder, but he was like jabbed up.
And then returned for a 129 in the showdown. But yeah, 93 on the weekend. Yeah, I think there's better options this round in particular. Now moving on to the next match, and it is your mob up against Melbourne at the MCG on Saturday night. And we've got Sam Doherty in this one. 107.5 is his average against the Ds, with scores of 96, 121, 120, and 93.
Yeah, I'm personally not as much of a fan. Again, as we spoke about earlier with regards to Walsh, if Walsh is returning, maybe that sees a bit of an uptick in form, maybe, considering Newman's doing a good job up there. Might be able to sap some of the points out of Newman and get more of a high score there. But even then, it's a tough game. I'd be probably more comfortable in putting the VC potentially, if you can, on this guy in Christian Petrarca, 159 in his most recent game earlier this season, a 99, 101, and a 126 for an average of 121.25. So absolutely loves playing my mob. And with Oliver potentially making his return, that's the only caveat there. It may mean that Petrarca plays more time up forward. compared to what he has, where he's been kind of splitting his time. But who knows? Maybe they might try and manage Clary and means there's more mid-time for Petrarca. Who knows? But I think nonetheless, he's going to absolutely go bananas in Wake, because I think Petrarca played that game alongside Oliver for that 159 from memory.
Yeah.
So, he's a good option.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to Maxi Gorn. Another option for you if you are an owner. He has scores of 103, 129, 117, and 184 in his last 4 against the Blues for an average of 133.25. The big caveat here is whether we see the return of Grunt to the Demons lineup.
Yep.
So I would be waiting for team sheets for that one.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. With Petty being out, there's a fair chance that happens. But next up, we have Andy Brayshaw, and he is averaging a 101.75 against the Eagles in this next game, of course. And his recent scores are 84, 96, 106, and 121. To be honest,
they do love to tag him, though. That's the thing. They love tagging him.
Yeah, they do. Even though the Eagles don't want to win, but they tried to win against your mob and were very, very close. I don't know. Will they tag? They didn't tag Merritt or Parrish in the weekend.
No.
But still, I guess, this is a different kettle of fish rivalry.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different game.
Yeah, they'll still try and win, I think. We'll put a scare up them. See what happens. But even then, I think, I'd be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, likewise. Another option for you is Caleb Sarong. He scored a 146 in their most recent encounter, an 88, a 53, and a 135 for an average of 105.5. If you were going to choose to go with one of these guys, I'd be going Sarong. I don't think he gets the attention, and I think he can score well.
Yep, totally agree with that. Next up, we have Sicily, who presents as a massive option, as we mentioned earlier. The good old Sis dog, he's coming up against the actual dogs himself. He could dine out because the dogs, as you mentioned, they concede the most points to defenders at present. And in his last 4 against them, he scored a 128, most recently earlier this year, an 87, 134, and an 81 for an average of 107.5. But again, just be wary about Bevo. May pull a shifty, but maybe he only does that if the Hawks get a bit of a run on early on and put a scare up the dogs. Maybe they shift things in game. Maybe they're just back in their process and their system and go from there. Hopefully, for those of us who own him, we'll see what happens.
Evo, don't do it.
Yeah, please don't do it.
If you're
Evo.
listening.
Yeah, please don't do it.
Anyway, let's move on to the other side of the field.
Yes.
Tim, I'm just trying to telepathically tell Bevo not to do it. Tim English. He's not got a great average against the Hawks. Scores of 90, 102, 82, and 103, with that 90 coming earlier in the year as well. He has an average of 94.25. So, you don't want to bet against him, but maybe one to avoid this week.
Yeah. Well, I bet against him 2 weeks ago and he killed me. But obviously on the weekend, he killed me in turn by putting the VC back on him. But we all know he's got kind of that high floor anyway. So maybe if you want to roll the C into him, I guess there's a bit of a softens the ball.
I don't mind that.
But even so, I think there's like with Sicily playing in that same game alongside this next guy in Lebont, who averages a 121.75 against the Hawks, if you don't mind. And his games thus far, 122 earlier in the season, 136, a 115 and a 114. So he's in the form of his life. I know some people are worried about potentially Finn McGuinness going to him. I don't think that's going to happen because different kettle of fish. He's taller.
Players.
He's taller than Finn. He's size-wise, frame-wise, he is much, much bigger. He won't be able to, and strength probably as well, wouldn't be able to get around him in the air as well. His leap, his overhead marking, which is a strength in his game.
Or defend him the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, all Bot needs to do if he gets tagged is just go forward, take clunks, easy as, kick bags. So I think potentially there's a better matchup with Connor Nash. He's actually 193, 194 centimeters or something ridiculous, and can actually, we all know he's played a bit of a tagging role. So maybe he plays a negating role on Bont. As to whether or not it's effective is another thing and remains to be seen. But he's a very good option, goes without saying.
Yes. Moving on to the next game, and it is the Saints up against
The Tigs.
the Tigs. Only one guy here that we've got, and it is Jack Sinclair. He's got an average of 92.25 against the Tigers for scores of 102, 116, 75, and 76. Yeah, one to consider, but not necessarily a massive option for you.
Yep. No. Let's move on to the next game, and it is Port Adelaide up against the Giants. And we have in this game Connor Rosie first up. He's averaging an 88.75 in his last four. His most recent game was 154. Then he's got an 84, a 54, and 63 against the Giants. So, yeah, again, the main worry for him is the fact that he hasn't really had a ceiling game all season. So, yeah, he's not captaincy worthy, I don't think.
No, I agree. Next guy on the list is Zach Butters. He has a average of 84.75 against the Giants with scores of 96, 94, 73, and 76. But again, he's one that kind of could go either way. I mean, he scored the 137 on the weekend, but realistically, his last good captaincy score was the week before against Adelaide, where he scored 134. But then before that, we're really looking all the way back to round 10, where he scored 184. Since then, he did not go above 120. So,
Yeah.
Or 125 even. Like, he didn't get anywhere near it. The captaincy worthy score, the closest was a 118 in round 13. So, yeah, probably one to avoid, but maybe if you really need to pull something out of that late,
Yep.
could throw. He's playing the last game of the round, so it goes against all prevailing logic.
Exactly right, as we all know. And let's round it out with the last two. And first up, we have Stephen Canilio, Cogs. He averages a 119.75 up against Port. And his recent games against them, he scored a 113, a 97, 143, and a 126. So not too bad considering that. And his recent form line hasn't been too bad. But I think for me, again, he is someone that's probably down the list in terms of all the guys that were spoken about as potential, especially C options, which he would need to be.
Yep. And last guy on the list is Tom Green. Does not have a great average against the power. From his three outings with 50, a 59, and a 42 for an average of 50.33 recurring. But he did return on the weekend with a score of 126. And before he did his hamstring, he had a score of 128 and a 127 against Freo back in round 14. So could be one to consider. Again, probably one if you're trying to throw a Hail Mary.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. That's it.
There's not much more to be said about it. Think about good old Tom Green. But Liam, let's jump into our little captaincy head-to-head.
Let's do it.
And of course, I had the first pick last episode, and I did end up being the noble person, leaving Gawn to you. I did secretly think that maybe Merritt was going to score more than Gawn. It was going to be tough, though. But I ended up choosing. Yeah, and it happened. I ended up choosing your own boy there in Merritt, and he delivered me the narrow win by 13 points to extend my lead from 12 wins to your 8 in captaincy selections. So, Liam, you have the first pick this week. Who are you eyeing off? Is there anyone in particular? It's a whole host of names.
There's a whole host of names. I like Sicily. I like Merritt. I like Petrarca.
Mm-hmm.
I like Stewart. I'm going to go. I like Goulden. I like Goulden as a risk.
I'll have to play
like
some.
If you could put a VC there.
I have to play some music here. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, that's what's going in my head, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Merritt.
Merritt. That's all right. That's good. Well, I can't go for him anyway if I wanted to, but he would have been my number one choice. Pretty obvious, I think. Good old Zachary Merritt. For me, I think I'll be going with. I think Bond just stands out to me. I could go for English again, but I think with the form that he's in, and now that he sees that Daicos is down and out for the count, there's a Brownlow to be won, and I think you can probably say the same thing for Petrarca up against my mob. Good form line, good history, but I'm going to back in at Le Bond, I think, for me.
Yep. And I think for Melbourne, again, they're fighting for that top 2 spot. I think, I don't know, I've not looked at the ladder,
Yeah, something to play for.
that ladder properly, like to really look at permutations and how, oh no, well, they are in the second spot already. So yeah, just making sure they can play that out because there's only 1.1% between Brisbane and Melbourne at the minute. So they need to keep winning.
And equal on points with Brisbane and Port. So they could slide as far as fourth if they lose to Carlton and the other two win.
Exactly. And still 2 games behind the Pies. So, something to consider there.
It is time though now, Liam, to have a quick chat to our special guest who we absolutely love to have on our show. He's becoming a regular around these parts and for good reason, as he is one of the biggest gentlemen of SuperCoach and the SuperCoach community at large. It's SuperCoach with DR, of course. And thanks for joining us, DR. Give yourself a quick plug as well whilst you're at it.
Oh, no, you are too kind, gentlemen, too kind. I've been loving your work this preseason. I tell you what, we need to get you to that 1,000 subscriber mark. It'll be absolutely criminal if we don't, because you two legends absolutely deserve it. But great to have a chat with you boys again. It's been a little while, been a big season. So big news, obviously, with Daicos coming up this week. But look, for me, mate, really, it's things are starting to sort of quieten down a little bit with the content. I do the round reviews and a bit of a stocky and do the sword play potty. We'll do that for probably another couple of weeks and then a bit of time off, I think, mate, and just look forward to watching some finals football. Hopefully all of our clubs will be involved. Essendon just got over the line. The Blues are steaming home and hope the Lions can, I don't know, maybe just clasp a top 2 spot. Don't know at the moment, mate. It's going to be pretty tight up there in the top 4. But, going very, very well. Thanks, gents. And thanks very much for having me on again.
Great to have you. Now, DR, first off, have to ask how you're going this season in 2023. But also another big question, as you alluded to, Daicos is out and many coaches are going to have some issues. We obviously ran through a few options in our trade segment. So we outlined Sicily, Newman, Caleb Sarong, Lukey Jackson, and Zach Butters as some potential options. I guess, are you in the fortunate position to have any trades left? And what is your planned move?
Yeah, I do. I've got one trade, and as we're talking pre-podcast, one bloody boost as well that I can't use, which is a little bit frustrating, mate. But look, you can't complain because there's plenty of teams out there that don't have a trade at the moment. So I do have that luxury of having one trade up the sleeve. And I've been preaching for probably the last month. If you've got that one trade left, just keep it for a rainy day, because if a premium and a very highly owned premium goes down and you don't have any trades in the bank, then you could be at a real disadvantage. So I think that anyone that, been like that little squirrel that's kept the nuts, just kept that one nut in the hole in that tree, I think you're going to have a big advantage this week. So, yes, I do. But big decisions about who to bring in, boys. Tough decisions.
Yeah, very, very tough, isn't it? Is there any, because I know watching your video that you uploaded recently, you were talking about potentially a DP3 as an option and maybe even a Jackson as well. But it's awfully hard to, I guess, weigh up between which one to go for, isn't it?
It is. Well, again, and it comes down to having DPP in your side as well. So a few weeks ago, I moved Dawson into my midfield just to get that extra loop. So lucky enough with obviously Daicos gaining DPP status during the season, I'm able to flick Dawson back, get Daicos in the midfield and either get a midfielder like your DP3 or else just bring a forward into the midfield and look to get a forward. So, yeah, the two options for me are probably DP3 and Luke Jackson at this stage. A pod down the back line, I think you've already discussed him. I don't mind his Nicky Newman. Damon is a Carlton man. You'll probably know best there. But just looking at him, his last 5, 114, 106, 92, 137, 144, only 10 kick-ins in the last 5 weeks as well, which surprised me. I just assumed that he'd be taking a fair few kick-ins in order to get these pretty juicy scores. So I think I should look at that as a positive, the fact that he's not relying on those kick-ins to get those decent scores. Being very consistent with that disposal count as well. 20, and this in the last 5 weeks, 23, 23, 23, then 27 up to 35 last week. So with those 23 possession games still hitting the 100, I think positives there as well. Massive pod, but as we know, if he fails, you really go down hard. But if he shoots the lights out, then I think you've got a pretty good big leg up on the competition, particularly those people that are going to have Daicos on the bench and maybe a big Campbell Chesser replacing him. So, yeah, I do like Newman. And on the other two, DP3, I've sort of changed my mind, I think, after I did my round review. But on Parish, obviously North Giants and then the Pies. Last 6, 131, 126, 92, 109, 101, 119. So in good form there. The other thing I like about this is the fact that he plays with Zach Merritt. And if a tag's come 20 Essendon midfielder, then it's not going to this man. It's going to Zachary Merritt. And the form that he's been in lately, surely they may even look to go to him this week. We'll see what happens there. So that's what I like about him. High score this year is only 131 so far. And we know that this man, most years, tends to have at least one really big ceiling game. So I'm not giving up hope yet. There is 3 rounds to go. He's playing North Melbourne this week. Yeah. So I've just got a little bit of an inkling that this may be a really big ceiling game. And the last one is Luke Jackson. And this is probably the bloke that I've sort of swung to in the last 24 hours, I think. Now, with Jacko, this is what I like about him. This is his scores with Shrek out. Don't know if you blokes have gone through this as well, sorry, but very quickly. No. So round 13, 119, round 14, 118, round 15, Shrek was back, but I think a little bit underdone. So Shrek was in the side, but he scored a 134 there. Then around 19, hit the ton. Only the 87 in round 20, but we know what he did last week with a 173. Yeah. Personally, I'm not a decam owner, so having that ruck swing will just give me some good peace of mind, I think. Yeah. Look, I'm not wishing injury on any of my rucks. That would be a disaster, but just in case, and best of all, Big Bad Bailey Williams has been suspended this week. Who on earth they got to ruck there, boys? Like, who's he going to be coming up against? I've got no idea, right? Is it a Jack Williams? Is there a bloke named Jack Williams on the list? I'm not too sure. Yeah. Is it him? Look, I really don't know. But if Jacko managed to do that to Darcy Fort, then, yeah, he could be a very, very bad man this week. So after that, is it going to be Vicentini possibly from Port Adelaide? Again, pretty dodgy competition. And then he finishes off with the Hawks, who have been okay in the rucks this year. So they're probably the 3 I'm looking at, one from each line, but going towards Lukey Jackson with no Shrek at the moment, mate, with that number 1 ruck roll.
Yeah, very nice. It's I think that Jack Williams, he sounds awfully like a bloke they've just pulled off the street, and they probably have because they're so bereft of they're running out of ruck options up there over at on the West Coast. So yeah, I mean they're all very, very nice options as well. But you're in a fortunate position, as you said, with having a trade up your sleeve. Many people don't, so it's a good sort of I guess time for you to potentially rise up the ranks as you have been doing over recent weeks. So hopefully that continues for yourself. But just changing tact here, we just wanted to pick your brain a little bit more because you're a fountain of knowledge when it comes to SuperCoach, of course, dear. And we want to pick your brain a bit more about key strategic takeaways and learnings from 2023. I mean, every single season we go into the year with plans and we come out of the year always with takeaways, things we learn, things we should have done, things that we have done that we think, okay, that worked, we'll take that into next year. Is there anything really for yourself that sticks out, whether it be in relation to using boosts, which, as you mentioned, you've got one up your sleeve or in your pocket you're going to take through to next year, or is it conserving trades, using trades early, how you manage your bench cover, all that sort of stuff? Is there anything in particular that sticks out for yourself?
Well, how long have we got, boys? I've had a pretty ordinary season today. It depends how long this podcast actually goes for. But it's funny, I've played the game for a fair while. I certainly never call myself an expert or anything like that. I love the game, and we're all students of the game, I think. But every year, regardless of how long you've played for, you do learn lessons. And I think given the way that the game's consistently changing year upon year, we just look at the last 2 years with the amount of trades we've got, things like the booster to come into play, different strategies. You've got to constantly keep up with what's going on in SuperCoach, new game plans, new strategies, new ways of looking at things. So I think that we learn each year. And for me, it's some of those same old lessons as well. And I think one's a really simple one, and it's back your gut. There's been so many times where I've wanted to go with a particular player, and I think sometimes maybe it's that extra pressure of maybe putting out content as well. Like your team's just on display for the whole world to see. You don't want to stuff up. You don't want to look like a dickhead. And often you think, maybe this gut call isn't right. I may even just go with the crowd here, just make it a little bit easier on myself, just in case things go bad. Well, everyone else has got him, et cetera, et cetera. So that's probably one thing, mate, is really back your gut. I made a few changes just after one preseason game as well. I don't know how this happened, but out went, Jordan Dawson In comes Doherty, out goes Daicos, in comes Ridley. It's like, what the heck am I doing here? Liam Jones makes his way into my side as well. So I think I probably reacted a little bit too much just to that one preseason game. I got scared off. And keep in mind, as we all did, boys, remember you coming onto my channel to do the Gold Coast team preview. We've been doing our research for months and months and months. Why throw that out in the trash after a 1 week preseason event? You know, it was just a little bit silly, just a little bit reactive there. And as we know, if you don't nail that starting team, you're in big trouble. You know, 92K was my rank after round one. You know, I've clawed myself close to 3K now, but it's been bloody tough, I'll tell you what. So that's probably one thing. Another thing is, and I think this hurt a lot of people, was when Elliott-Yeo went down. And the lesson learned there is that I was really relying him as that mid-pricer in my defensive line. He was the only mid-pricer that I was looking at that stage. And when he went out, just that one player, just one mid-pricer, it threw everything out of whack. Wanganeen Miller made his way into the side. What the hell happened there? I don't know how this happens, right? But it just made me change so many other things around. And it was the same the season before when I was dead set starting Kitty Coleman. He had defensive forward DPP. And I was dead set starting him in my back line. When he went down with a hammy, I was actually at that game, all the structure stuff went out the window because there was just no other player around that price range that I liked. And I'd sort of already locked him in. So that's another thing. You need to be flexible with your starting team and make sure you don't have particular players that are just immovable, because if you need to move them last minute, like an Elliott-Yeo, then it could just create some absolute chaos. So there are probably a few lessons in regards to the starting team and early on the year. Be more aggressive with the boost. You touched on it before, mate. I've still got one sitting there in the bank. Well, I don't officially now because I've got no trades. But that was frustrating. I should have probably been a little bit more aggressive. Again, I was probably not... I was more defensive with them. I thought save them for a rainy day, but if I had have used them earlier, I could have got a bit of a leg up on the competition, I think. So that's probably another one, mates. Look, there's so many here. And just the other one is don't get too clever with things. You know, sometimes simple is better, I think. And going into next year, I think that probably the structure I'm looking at, I'll probably look for too much value, I think, this year. Just really went AFL fantasy style, just value. Yeah. And I think I need a bit more of a balance next year. Just get those uber elites in, lock in your Timmy Englishes, these sort of blokes, get your must-have rookies and just sprinkle a couple of those mid-prices on top rather than going just sick like I did. I went too many mid-prices. So, some quick lessons there, boys. Many, many more. But as I said, I'd be here for a long time. But just a few quick ones from me there, fellas.
We'll have to get you on for a part two, perhaps, and when we review our own seasons and spitball.
I feel quite a lot of those. With my own season. But obviously, let's look ahead to next season. Still got 3 weeks, obviously, in 2020. What is it? 2023. But it is that time of the year where we start to look towards next year. Are there any players that you got your eye on at this early stage?
Tim English. He's killed me this year, mate. He's absolutely killed me this year. I traded him in last year. I reckon it was for Isaac Heaney, and English just did absolutely nothing. I think he gave me one good game, got injured again or something. I'm like, surely I can't start the man this year. Just way too injury prone. He's like pretty much the only ruck that hasn't gone down. You wouldn't bloody believe it, would you? Everyone else seems to have gone down. But it's just killed me, boys. It's just been so consistent, basically, probably with Bont, the best player in SuperCoach. So he's one I'm just going to absolutely lock in, I think, next year. And apart from that, I don't have too many more. I really don't have too many more locks, I don't think, at this stage. Daicos is probably one we think he's going to get defensive DPP or defensive status. So I think he'll be one that it'll be really hard not to have in your side. But really, apart from that, you know, the Clarys of the world, the Lairds of the world that have been locks of the past, I just don't really see them necessarily as locks next year. I think the race is wide open, and the amount of options that we're going to have in our midfield in particular, all these forwards that are going to migrate into the midfield, the forward line's going to be pretty bare, boys. So that's something I'm actually looking forward to. We can't just go your Dunkleys, your Cogs, your Rosies and leave it at that, your Taranto types. We're going to have to be pretty imaginative and pretty inventive, I think, because pretty much all the big names that we see there this year won't be available next
Yeah,
year.
it's gonna be
So
Gorski.
yeah. But Shorty did mention just quickly, and I'll steal Shorty's thunder here, a real pod, just to throw it out there, maybe pretty nice value next year in mid-price. It could be Kitty Coleman, the man I just mentioned before that I was looking to start a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no Dan Rich.
With no Dan Rich, I really see him. I think it's his time to shine and really take over that back line. Lovely left peg. I think he'll be the best man to take those kick-ins. I know Conor McKenna's done a bit. Pepsi Max King's done a bit. They have shared it around, but I think if they are going to commit to one main man there, it's going to be Kitty Coleman as well. So little bit unfit this year, few issues there, but next year I reckon he's ready to fire. So maybe a bit of a pod there, boys. But definitely English and Daicos probably they're pretty boring, I think. But look, I'm not going to go too crazy yet, locking in all these pods. I think I'll, as I said, go pretty vanilla and just sprinkle it a little bit. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm considering, if Sean Darcy moves on, I reckon forward could be nice Lucky Jackson.
Oh, as the number one, numero uno, we went through those scores before, and
exactly.
I think with this season under his belt as well, remember he's moved over to WA. He's a WA boy, but new game plan. I've heard Josh Dunkley actually talk a lot about the fact that it did take him a fair while to actually really gel with his teammates, and that's not on a personal level, but on that game style, gameplay type level. Yeah. Being at the Dogs, you just know where Liver and Bonds are going to be type thing. So I think that's something that can't be underrated as well with Luke Jackson this year, looking at him as an option potentially next year. But as you mentioned, mate, with Big Shrek potentially out of the Dockers, then yeah, I tell you what, he'll be hard to knock back, and he'll also have forward status as well.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure as well about that. So with all these blokes, as we just mentioned, going into the midfield, then the Lukey Jacksons of the world become really, really juicy options, I think, mate. That's a really good call, bud.
Yeah, I think the just off the back of that as well, like there's going to be a bit of change up in variability, I think, because Grundy is another one who could potentially go across to Port, and he could be the outright ruck, and we all know that Grundy, when he's at full flight and full fitness, what he can do. And then, obviously Sean Darcy, if he goes to Geelong, I mean, Geelong's probably more of an aging list, less sort of hit out to advantage potentially. But yeah, that sort of forward line, as you mentioned, with the, the removal of DPP status for those mids, or, I guess genuine mids that have the mid forward status. And then, of course, in the ruck line with the amount of options there, it's going to be quite interesting, isn't it? It's going to be crazy.
Absolutely, mate. And it's interesting, isn't it? Big Shrek. Brent, my mate Brent, you would have seen him on the podcast the other day. He swears by the fact that if Darcy goes down to Geelong, he's going to be twice the player, because he's got this huge theory about all the travel that the WA teams do, particularly on the big men and their bodies. So the fact that he'll be playing for a Victorian club, won't have to travel near as much, basically every second week they have to at Freo. He's a big believer in that, mate. So may actually grow another leg. I know it's an aging midfield, but now that you mention it, there are a few options. Maybe Tim English isn't as much of a lock as what I said. I'm not going to stuff around. Bugger it, mate. I'm not listening to this shit. I'm locking in Timmy, mate. Maybe it are too. Too.
And then of course there's Gawn as well, who if Grundy leaves, we all know what he's doing at the moment. So there's set and forget. English and Gawn will be those people that go for maybe one of English and Gawn and go for maybe a Luke Jackson or a Darcy or the like. It's going to be very, very interesting and see the way things are, the way the cards fall. But moving on now, I guess, to another discussion point. It's something that we touched on with Joe from the Centre Bounce, who we had on last week. Really good discussion, and I want to continue it on and just sort of gauge if any other content creators out there have any ideas or, I guess, anything that come to mind with regards to potentially, I guess, looking into the future of SuperCoach in 2024, but beyond that, if there's any sort of ideas of how to, I guess, improve the game or maybe further advance SuperCoach, because I guess the main thing is the longevity side of things. A lot of people, as we all know, like in terms of viewership and listenership, this time of year as content creators, we know that falls down because the amount of interest in playing SuperCoach just dwindles and pretty much ceases for a lot of coaches out there, because no one's got any trades anymore, or there's heaps of injuries and suspensions as we've seen this year. But is there anything that comes to your mind that you'd love to see introduced, or are you happy with the way things are structured with SuperCoach at the moment?
Oh, look, firstly, I obviously love the game like you two boys do. I do know Al Payton, spoken to him a fair bit, Tim Mitchell, and they are absolutely ripping lads. So shout out to them. They're always, open to feedback. I know for a fact they're always looking to improve the game. So with things like the boost, a few extra trades, some people like the extra trades, some people don't. But what you can't argue with is the fact that they are trying to make some positive changes and engage the whole audience. And that's the thing, isn't it? I know we're talking about Liam's great idea about possibly the 3 tiers. I think that's a fantastic idea as well, because as I just touched on, some people want less trades like your shorties of the world. Some people want more, towards that fantasy style of game. So with the 3-tier level, that could certainly cater to all audiences there. I really like that. But again, I'm going to steal some thunder here. This is something that Spills brought up. I reckon it would have been maybe a couple of months ago now. And it was when I reckon he was about 10, 20K down on being able to make a trade. And he said, geez, wouldn't it be great to have some sort of a loan system? Now, again, we haven't really nutted this out, if there's going to be interest, et cetera, but maybe just a couple of times a year, like you've got your 5 boosts, could you have 1 or 2 loans? Now, you'd need to pay this money back. What would the loan be? Could it be maybe 50K or 100K? Yes, okay. You could just have a quick loan. Maybe you've got a month to pay it back. All these things are up for discussion, but let's just say you could take out a loan for 100K and you got a month to pay it back. No interest. That could really get you a trade over the line that you're desperate to do. And in the meantime, rookies, make some more money. Cull one, give that 100K back, and you've been able to make your trade. Everything's equal again. Everything's as it should be. So I think that could be something that's interesting, maybe a bit of a loan system there. Something that I was thinking about, but the more that I think about it, I just don't think that it could work because the corruption could be unbelievable. But I was thinking more in a league setting, if I'm sitting there with 300K in the bank, 5 less trades than someone else, I go to old mate in the league, well, mate, you're sitting on a few extra trades there. You could use with 100K. How about if I slip 100K your way, one of those trades comes my way? What do you reckon about that? So the issue there is that you could get some dodgy happenings. Couldn't you imagine if you had that in a cashy? Someone's gone, right, mate, I'm struggling at the moment. You're right up there at the top. Let's go 50-50. I'll give you everything that I have, basically. Give me pittance for it. I'll give you the world. We'll split that down the middle, and you're going to have this monster team. So, I don't know if that would actually work the more that I think about it. But in some sort of, custom league situation, it could be possible, I suppose. But, probably the big one for me, mate, is that loan system. 2 loans a year, 100K, or you could even have a 50K and 100K, and maybe 4 weeks to pay it back. So that's just a wacky idea that I can't really claim that one. My man Spills came up with that one. So we'll go with Spills' one on that one, mate, the old loan system.
Yeah, don't mind it. And with that, I guess buying trades and stuff is kind of something we discussed last week with Joe as well. Yeah. Like using some of your salary cap to potentially buy trades, because obviously the team appreciates over the course of the year, and it means that you're sacrificing some of your salary cap, which you would ordinarily put towards upgrading your team. Perhaps you take a little bit of a haircut and trade in some of that cash to get in an extra trade. Who knows? And it obviously reward those players that are looking to, buy low, sell high type, the old AFL fantasy. So maybe there's a bit of an appeal to traditional AFL fantasy or dream team players. But the tier system that you referred to as well, that Liam brought up last week, which just to give perspective for those people that didn't tune in, is virtually having, when you first sign up to SuperCoach, it asks you, are you a beginner, an intermediate, or expert? And it'd virtually be a 3-tier system where, the top prize at the moment would be for the experienced, intermediate would be less than that, and then the beginner would be maybe just play for, I don't know, bragging rights or something like a trophy or something that SuperCoach puts out there. But then the beginner tier would have, unlimited trades, a little bit more trades with the intermediate, and then with the expert would be, what we're dealing with at the moment. But Liam, is there anything that I've missed there that you kind of were thinking about with the idea? Because I love it. It's a really good idea.
Not really. I think that's it. But I think it's also being able to play across if you wanted to. So you might want to have multiple teams. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can only go for the prize in the biggest league that you're in, the highest league. You can't win the prize in all of them. But just being able to play different strategies and different ways across different tiers, I guess.
Yeah, because the beginner tier really does work to, I guess, from a business perspective, like in terms of the people who run the
Yeah,
show,
yeah,
like
grab
Herald
some
Sun and
market.
SuperCoach, they grab like a slice of the AFL fantasy pie with trying to nab some of their clients or their customers that play the game and get them to come across and build the playership, I guess, with the SuperCoach
It
side
also
of things.
holds their
So,
attention.
Mm.
Holds their attention for the whole season. If you can make trades until the end of the year, you're gonna be sticking around week to week.
Yep,
Good point.
exactly. Yeah. The other idea I had, which I don't mind, is kind of borrowing from the AFL fantasy, which is virtually having like a utility
Yeah, I like that
spot,
too.
but it's only reserved for if there's suspensions or injuries. So unless a player has a designation that they're injured or suspended, you're not actually able to use that player. So it does help for
Oh,
those weeks
nice.
where,
Yeah.
you don't have to use a trade. You're not forced to use a trade, but maybe I'm not too sure what the parameters would be around choosing a play in that position. Maybe because you're swapping out a suspended or injured player into that spot, maybe it's someone around about the same price or someone that's averaging the same as them or around about the same. So you do need parameters, but yeah, that's sort of another idea that came to mind as well. I think who was it? Is it STS? Another
Yeah,
content,
legend.
yeah, another content
Yeah,
creator. He
great
had a
man.
very similar
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, so I don't mind that as well.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Don't mind
And
that.
it's great discussion because, as I said, you got to throw up these ideas because the blokes, I guarantee you, do actually listen to it. And the more ideas you put out there, then, the better the game will be. So, love the discussion, boys. Some really, really good ideas there. Love it.
Awesome, thank you. Now, just before we wrap up, would be remiss to go on without asking you who is your captain and your VC for this week.
Well, at the moment, I'm going with the same VC that I went with this week, and that's Zachary Merritt.
Yes.
Coming up against North. Look, he may get the tag, but that's all good because he's a vice. I think that you'd be pretty nuts to pass this man up. There's no guarantee the tag's going to go there. I think last time, was it around a 110? I think he moved into the forward line and started doing some damage around there. Or I know he moved out of the midfield anyway. So
he went nuts in the first quarter.
Well, there you go. So
kicked,
nuts in the midfield, and then moved out.
Yeah,
Did he?
got tagged. I think he started in the midfield. I think he had like 5 tackles in the first quarter, 2 holding the balls, kicked 2 goals, went nuts.
Oh, I do remember that now, actually.
And then he got
Now that you
tagged.
say that, mate.
Yeah, then he got tagged,
yes.
and then they moved him forward, and he played a bit more forward.
Yeah, look, in current form, I know he's had a dodgy game in the last few weeks, but it's hard to deny, I think, early game. So I think we'll lock him in. And the other bloke I was going to lock in as my captain or my backup, I've got cold feet on now, depending on what happens with the team sheets. It was going to be Max Gawn. I'm a Max Gawn owner. He's been really delivering for me, and probably a big reason for me going up the ranks slightly over the last month. But with Harrison Petty going down, does this mean that Brodie Grundy comes back into the side? Yeah. I hope not, because it could kill my pick. It could absolutely kill my pod. I'm not looking forward to team sheets, boys. I'm praying that they go with someone else. They find some other solution that is not Brodie Grundy. But yeah, with Petty out, I think he could be the replacement. So if he comes in, then I'm not looking at Maxi, I don't think. I'd probably switch to Track. I know that he really dominated against your boys last time. I think it was about a 160.
Yep.
So hard to go past him. It's hard to go past your Bonds as well. But for me, mate, Zerritt into one of the Melbourne boys, preferably Maxi with no Grundy, I think. And that's really just based on current form. He hasn't gone below 120 in the last month, and he's gone a couple of absolute monsters. So that's probably where I'm looking at, boys. How about yourselves? Liam, who are you looking at this week, mate? Going with your boy, Zerritt? You got faith in your boy?
Yeah, Merritt VC. I think, as you said, there's not really much reason not to worry about him in your forward. As an early pick, VC, if he gets tagged, it's okay. C's a little harder.
Jeez.
I mean, I've got Libba, who I don't mind. Repaid the faith this week with a 159. Could look at him against Hawthorn. Down in Tassie. Otherwise, who else is there? Just trying to look at. teams.
There's a cis dog.
There is him there. Probably one of those two in that
Yeah.
game, I reckon. Is
Yep.
probably my C.
It's going to be interesting with that because Bont, English, and Sicily in the same game, and with Sicily coming up against the Dogs actually concede the most points behind. Actually, I think they're the most points overall in terms of counting general defenders and designated kickers. They are by far and away the most conceding to opposition defenders. So don't mind that. It's a really good matchup for Sis, but it does worry me. I mean, we said the same thing about when he was facing St Kilda, had that awesome game, 172 or whatever it was. And then, obviously Ross Lyon, for the first time all season, changed up the forward setup and the way they entered the forward 50 and kicked it longer as opposed to kicking shorter. And Sicily couldn't weave his magic. So I'm a little bit worried. Could be bevoed, but he kind of will be a bit of a pod, I think, compared to Bont and English especially.
I'll tell you one I just saw here, boys, and look, I wouldn't be confident putting the actual C on him, but he's one of those blokes that's got a massive ceiling. If you're going to bypass Zeret as your VC, which I think is going to be pretty hard to do, but Sydney are playing Gold Coast at the SCG, and Errol Goulden, I tell you what, he's been in pretty fine form.
My boy.
So if you want to go a real pod VC, or even you could go him as your captain. I just don't like putting Errol as my captain, because he can throw in a 50 or a 60. But just another one just to throw out there, someone that's got a massive ceiling that could deliver if you've got the kahunas to do it.
Yep, I like it. He's definitely an out there pick as well, especially in these league finals. If you're in, a semi-final, is it this week? Like, you obviously need the win. So, if you need a point of difference, that's definitely one ticket to getting the point of difference.
Absolutely, mate.
Definitely.
Easy. Well, DR, thanks for joining us, mate. Really do appreciate you taking the time to jump on as always, and it's always a pleasure to have you here on our shores. So you're welcome back anytime. Let us know. We'll obviously extend the invitation out whenever you're free. Such is the greatness. I wasn't going to mention this, but I will mention it because we did extend the invitation out last week, and we're recording on a Tuesday, which is unlike us. We couldn't do it on the Monday. And you actually were recording I think it was a Sort of Play podcast, it might have been then. And you actually said, no, I can push back our record in order to come on. And I'm like, that there just speaks levels to how much of a gentleman you are. So I really do appreciate it, mate, and everything you do for the community as well, and really enjoy your content. Like I said, getting your mate on and stuff as well, just always entertaining, mixes things up. Pass on our regards as well to him. He was great.
Oh, well, mate, thank you. You boys, you are way too kind, fellas, way too kind. It's always an absolute pleasure chatting with you lads. And again, the invitation is extended anytime for you blokes. We need to have you blokes on the Sword Play because we do like to get it. I always say this with the greatest love and affection, but a couple of loose units. I know you guys as, but it's all fun. And again, what I love about what you guys do is you've got that really good balance, I think, which is really important between having that laugh, having the banter, having a good time, as well as delivering some top-notch advice as well, boys. So I'll be making sure that I'm tweeting this out. We need to get 1,000 subscribers to this channel ASAP because the work that you guys do as well is phenomenal, not just on YouTube, but on Twitter as well. So thank you very much for having me, gents. It's always absolutely fantastic to be on, and I look forward to having a chat ASAP as well, legends.
Pleasure. And you can see down there as well, head to YouTube, just lastly, SuperCoach with DR, and Twitter as well. Hit him up at SuperCoach_DR, and you'll see how much of a passionate Brisbane Lions man he is as well. SuperCoach aside as well. So all the very best for the remainder of the SuperCoach season, and likewise for the Brisbane Lions as we round out the home and away season, heading into finals for the Lions. So thanks again, DR. Really do appreciate it.
Peace, brothers. Good on you, mate.
Very nice. Well, he's always a joy to have on.
Absolutely.
But Liam, before we wrap things up, let's run through our SuperCoach Edge Cup group results after round 21.
Yes, SuperCoach Edge public group leader is again the carryover leader, with Adam with his team All Too Hard. He had a round score of 2,561, and he has jumped from 19th to 11th. So he is absolutely flying at the right time of the season. Damon, who was the top scorer for the round?
Top scorer for the round was a familiar name we spoke of a few weeks ago, and it is Andy with his team Bod's Squad. A round score of 2,624, a round rank of 41st, and an overall rank of 140.
Yep, so flying. Absolutely flying. Now, for our Patreon exclusive group, the leader is none other than Prostitutes Inc., who is, of course, Jonas Goat, yet again, who was our top round scorer. He has a round score of 2,405, an overall rank of 368. Now, Damon, you made up 21 points on him this weekend, but you're still 212 points behind with, 3 weeks to go. So I think I'm going to say Jonas has one hand. No, I'm going to say he has two hands.
Yep.
He has two hands on the crown. But you're almost there. You're climbing. I don't know. I'm going to use a lot of analogies. You're like just below him as you climb this mountain.
Although having said that, he has actually commented on my Team Talk video on YouTube, of course, and he said, with Nicky Boy Daicos gone for the year, I will be fielding either Chincotta or Chessa at D6.
Chessa, yes. Chessa. Choose Chessa.
So he reckons, he goes, so you will catch me in the rankings. I don't know if I will, but I love how the fact that he's preempted this before this actually goes to air. So he's like channeling. He knows exactly what's going on here. Good old Jonas.
Yes.
Don't know if I'll catch him though.
212 points is a lot in 3 weeks?
Yeah. Geez, that's it's like 70 points a week after.
You can do it. Like it's not impossible, but it's just there's not much room for error.
Yeah.
On your part. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to outscore him every single week virtually, which is hard enough in itself considering he's outscored me most week. Yeah. And the highest weekly score goes to Sharpshooters. Round score of 2,478 with an overall rank of 2,169th. So well done
Very
there.
Well done to Brett. I want to say his name is.
Yes. And as it turns out, I'm facing him this week. In the final.
Ultimate supremacy.
Yes.
And let's have a look at the Patreon exclusive SuperCoach Edge Cash League. That is an absolute mouthful. Damon, because you're right. It was the first week of finals and the results. I'm going to go through the results and then you can look at the fixture for next week. Results looked something like this. Matthew took on Carps. Matthew with his team Ton 618 took on Wade with his team's Carp Crushers. And Matthew took out the win 2-4-1-1 to 2-3-2-3. And Damon, you got the week off, as well as Sharpshooters, straight through to the semis. And the other matchup was Tankers Peter with his team Tankers up against Scott with his team Black on White. And Peter scored 2,367. Scott Arthur, he scored 2,397. So there was a 30-point win but Scott Arthur with his team Black on White, unfortunately for Peter, knocked out in the elimination.
Elimination final, yes, that's right, yes. Unfortunate there. Close game, and that always hurts as well. Like you almost want to be just like trounced because I was never in it. But I know Peter, I had a chat to him, of course, for those people tuning in, as you'd probably already know, if you're regular listeners and viewers, he is our combined father-in-law. And he mentioned, Liam, that he's putting the blame solely on someone you traded out, Jack Steele.
Typical Steele.
He obviously played that negating role, and he's blaming by extension Ross Lyon, stuffing him up. And I remember he was asking us, he was like, do I go for Jack Steele? Do I go for this player? He said he was keen on Sarong potentially as an option. Went for Steele. I said to him, I would have gone the exact same route. There was no indication that Steele was going to play a negating role. He hasn't in
of course,
Yonkers, and he's actually recaptured his form, his fitness, everything else. So, really unfortunate there for him. Let's have a look at the second round of finals, and we have, as I mentioned, myself and the Sharpshooters. We're facing off. First and second, we had the week off, kicked our feet up, and we're just prepared, put in the hard work, hard yards. ready to go. And then we also have, as you mentioned, Ton 618 Matthews' team got the win on the weekend. He went through and he's facing black on white Scott Arthur's team. So that's going to be an absolute ripper, Liam, because especially, I guess, there's permutations with my game with sharpshooters, because the winner of this game goes straight through to the grand final. Such is the smaller league. That's the way it works, as strange as it is. And then, of course, sharpshooters gets a double chance, or myself if I ended up losing, and we end up facing off against the winner between Ton 618 and black on white.
Very, very nice. Good luck to you, Damon.
Thank you so much, and good luck to everyone else as well this
Good
weekend.
luck to Damon. Good luck.
I don't know if that's even
better luck.
Good luck. You sound like bloody Franco Costa. Good luck buying my furniture. And
he's coming back in next week.
He is. He actually has to make an appearance before the season is done, and he will. Don't worry, just remind me. But Liam, that brings us to the end of the show. But before we go, where can our listeners? You mean write him a letter in prison? Where can our listeners find us across our socials?
That's what it is, isn't it? Sliding to his DMs.
Yeah,
you slide the letter under the I don't know, the DM bars. The DM grade doors. I don't know what DM
you hand it to the warden. The warden hands it to one of the I don't know what they call them, whoever works in prisons, and then they go down there and they rap on his they wrap the baton on the prison bars. Hey Franco, you got I don't know why they're like telling, hey Franco, you got yourself a letter. Like, okay, he's like some mafia dude. Oh, thank you. He's like the Don. He's actually secretly the Godfather. Okay. Anyway, I got a fantasy in my mind. Could make a film out of that.
That is it. But that does bring us to the end of the show. But before we go, I'm going to run through the socials for you. YouTube, search SuperCoach Edge, and don't forget to like and subscribe. On Twitter /X, search SuperCoach. You can find us at SuperCoach_Edge. You'll find Damon at DamoJ88. You can find myself at Liam Evans _95. And on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, search SuperCoach Edge, and you'll find us there.
Very nice. Well, as always, if you love the content we provide, make sure to let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel, as you mentioned, Liam, and help us in our pursuit of hitting 1K by the end of the season. We're now sitting at 935, so we need to average an extra 20, 21 subs each week across the next 3 weeks in order to hit our target and activate our giveaway. Now, they're not going to know what it is unless they subscribe, which if they don't, we don't hit that milestone. We're just going to have to wait for next season for that potentially the season after that. Year. Exactly. Maybe they just have to wait until 2037.
It's a long way away.
That's a long, long way away. So there's incentive for you.
That is incentive.
But Liam, that's it for another episode. I'm actually off to get my 2 wisdom teeth out tomorrow. So hopefully I'm all healed up and able to talk properly this time next week. Otherwise, it'll just be Liam and I'll just be there nodding. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. But at least my wife
used up. No, sorry. Keep going.
I was going to say, at least my wife gets a little bit of peace and quiet in the meantime, which she'll be happy with.
I was going to say, hopefully at least you used up all your trades before you got your wisdom teeth out. So
because I'll be unwise.
You'll be unwise from next week.
Oh no, I'm going to lose all my SuperCoach powers after this.
Hopefully they weren't stored in your teeth.
Oh no, I can tell you they're not, because one was an infectious, annoying thing, so that needs to come out. But anyway, we'll see how we go, and hopefully I am on the mend enough to have another yarn. Thank you, Liam. We've got 2 more episodes to go, so we're near the finish line. But as always, thanks for tuning in. All the best for the round ahead, and we'll catch you same time, same place. We'll see you then.
See you guys.